you on this initiative. Oh, you are very beautiful. I'm seeing you now.
Thank you. Very sorry. I didn't notice my camera is off.
Okay, to compliment the colleagues of this panel and all the participants that are arriving. I see that. So I am from Portugal, from ISCTE University Institute of Lisbon. And this is a public university created in 1972, specialized in the areas of social sciences, business sciences, technologies and architecture. And it is located on the campus of the University City of Lisbon in the center. And I work in the School of Sociology as a professor in public policies on the Department of Political Science and Public Policies as a professor and researcher, and I'm also Deputy Director of the Soft Skills Lab. I confess that it was a challenge to think about what I was going to share with you today, because I was not prepared to present a new study, and I didn't want to present studies done previously. So I choose to bring a reflection based on my perception on these recent events, and that make us all think about it. That's why the title of this presentation is Now is Different. And it is true. Now it's really different, and the world we grew up in has disappeared, and we will never return. So it disappeared in our sight while we were at work. We were shopping, we put food on the tables of our families, we took care of our older loved ones, and the world we know, or we knew, and in which we placed confidence has really disappeared. The problem is that nobody told us that this was going to happen, although we saw signs of this disappearance, but it seemed not properly recognized and in current thinking. It is the fact that the 20th century did not solve the problems, and now we continue to deal with them, plus the pandemic situation. So everything changed suddenly without giving us time to mourn our hopes and future expectations. Even though we were already in a vulnerable world of transition and in an era of extremes, we are still waiting for everything to return to normal. We climbed the way everything worked and the way everything fit together. On a micro scale, it reminds me of a story about a small town where people had good jobs and earned well, had job security, worked in the mine, and the mine closed. Everything changed. Everyone depended on that mine. And what did they do? They waited. They hoped in the belief that one day the mine will be open again and everything will return to normal. We often justify our reluctance to free ourselves from the past with the conviction that the changes that we are seeing are temporary. And this leads me to the paradox of the society we live in. Every aspect of our life is being stretched to the limit, and we feel crushed by the dimension of the events around us. We are a progress and innovation for one side and is backturned with the development. We stand for a globalized world that was supported in competitiveness, asymmetries, environmental imbalances, the illusion of things being faster, and that we have more interdependence and interconnection. But that gave us emotional dissonance, if the term exists. We say cognitive dissonance, but I call it emotional dissonance. Critical, reflective thinking is on deficit. Less time, illusion of independence, a false feeling of interconnection along with the simultaneous crisis every day, and the inability of educate and prepare new generations for resilience. And that gives us a sense of imbalance and disharmony and when we're supposed to live balanced and with harmony. So the new paradigm we live in prevails in all spheres of public life, and in which there is a subjective change in the way man sees the future, no longer with the security of the past, but with the discouragement that uncertainty of the unknown and the risk provoke. Now it's different because it is something that is totally open and covers all aspects of human life. It is in this dimension that gives it a new character, since in the past men lived and coped with risk, finding the confidence, and that allowed him to overcome the dichotomy between risk and trust, which contributed to the progress of humanity. However, in a world in constant transformation, traditional forms of trust have been dissolved, and we are losing the ontological security founded on the continuity of our personal identity, and which is rooted in the constancy of surrounding social and material environments well predicted by guidance. So we are faced with a different world marked by endemic uncertainty that dominates the most elementary existence of many people. Also, our dearest Beck said it. And I'm not referring to our small world, I'm referring to a wide variety of different risks, personal and global, and mutual contradictory. Changes happening in a dizing speed, forecast becoming redundant in the face of such unpredictably as it is what the very present is challenging us due to the profound changes that are taking place in the world of work, in the production processes, in the management of states and policies, and by sharpening conflicts arising from ethnic, regional, and international relation problems. Social issues acquire global dimensions. However, these dimensions do not diminish the importance of the internal problems of each society. On the contrary, they aggravate them. Also, we must not forget that this process is incomparably different from all those that humanity has gone through. Throughout its historical evolution, it is precisely in this field that the current challenges are configured, which does not imply that we abandon classic methods or theories, nor that we ignore the old historical tradition, but that we can learn from mistakes through a reflexive attitude on the use of the old-new opposition that is, without a doubt, one of the obstacles to progress of science, especially social sciences, as Bourdieu told us also. We need to have the courage to recognize that we are really used to think of society as a parallel place, consolidated by the accumulation of knowledge produced historically, and that we have the duty to change and transmit it to the new generations. It's not a new thought. Jacob in the early 17th said that for an object to become accessible to an analysis, it's not enough to perceive it. It is necessary that a theory is able to accept it, and in exchange between theory and experience, it is always the first that starts the dialogue, which determinates from the question, and therefore the limits of the answer. This is what provides us with a set of theories and conceptions about the world. And if we don't know, we can't ask. If we don't ask, we can't know anything new. So how can we deal with problems if we are not honest about them? How can we be successful in a new world if we are focused on waiting for the old world to return? We want to think about the future, but our educational, political, and cultural system are focused on the immediate present, which means that our relationship with the collective future is not of hope, but of fear and of improvisation. Contingencies arise when they when we least expect it. The changes that are taking place now are different from those of the past, when a comfortable pattern of continuity prevailed. The current changes are, on the contrary, discontinuous. So they demand a different mental posture, a different mindset. It is necessary to consider that complexity and contingency produce an immense need for decision making, and that has fundamentally to do with how decisions are to be made. Luhmann said that society lives, society lives its future in the form of the risk of its decisions, making uncertainty reflective. Will not translate it into a safe expectation, but it can become a confidence that reduces insecurity. And this requires a radical change to understand reality, and the fact of recognizing the contingencies is not the lack of conviction, but the articulation of knowledge and non-knowledge, the relativization of available knowledge, in order to open space for new ways of looking at things. Transform the latent wideness of contingencies into a transparent awareness of contingencies, like Inerati says. I recognize that it is difficult to manage organizations in highly unstable and turbulent environments, all in constant pressure. And we know that the reasons for this pressure are increasing. The intensification of requests, skill required to be balanced and accepted in labor market, the ability to develop and respond more quickly, although we feel that we have to slow. We are facing lack of resources, new requirements, management expectations in fear, pressure and aggressiveness of the managers in related with the expected results. Stephen Gross reminds us that life itself is change. We are always giving up something for something else. So we can no longer rely only on premeditated models, but on reflexive structures capable of formulating alternatives and avoiding redundancies. The future is something with which we must maintain a good relation. It is an unknown, complex, open space that threatens or promises too much, which worries and attracts us. Also, it is a fragile time that needs care, attention, almost like a child. We must protect it with love. We must care, and we must be careful with our future. Part of the challenge we face results from the way we think about it, both individually and collectively. In many aspects, decision-making is based in structures that assume the existence of an archetypal rational person who would receive all the information available about the decisions to be made, who select the most relevant evidence for this decision, and discuss with other rational people and make a rational decision to go on. But it's not like that. It implies massive change in human behavior, thinking, and relationship. So the turning point is that we must change the way of thinking. The old way of thinking and living, we have the question, what can I get from the world? But now the new way of thinking leads us to a new question, what can I give, share, and contribute to the world? This transition or change may be our choice, or may be imposed. It is the answer to this question that alters the reasons that lead us to approach life and relationships as we do. I'm not a specialist in chaos theory or theory of complexity, and much less of leadership models. About leadership issues, I can only speak what I have learned with my daily experience with the team I worked with about 36 professors. And one thing is certain: to lead, whether it's a team, organization, or even, I think, a nation, we must rely on respect. Good communication, coherence, stability, trust, and care. And that gives us mutual respect, interdependence, and confidence. If we make our team feel insecure, disrespected, if we lead based in fear, it is the first step to failure. It is an illusion, and it is a sick environment. So as I said, I'm not an expert on this area, but this is something we learned from the School of Human Relations, the Mayo theory, that gained force after the Great Depression in 1929. So my perception is that we can really make it different, straighting the recognition of the importance of human relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Helena. It's a very interesting presentation, and I think it's give a very different insights that we had before in the previous invited speaker sessions. Now I will give the floor to Dr. Nilanjan.
I'm going to stop share, okay? I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Depend on the timing, I guess, unfortunately, Professor Yehuda won't be here with us. If he won't be here, we will have a more long question and answer session altogether. Now, Professor Nilanjan, we are with you. Your microphone is still off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to deliver a keynote speech at this very important forum, 7th International Symposium, Chaos, Complexity and Leadership 2020. So I would like to thank Professor Schule and supporting staff members for this symposium for invitation. Thank you very much. Thanks again. So today I will share my views regarding the hospitality and tourism and the complexity situation which has already faced in the COVID-19 situation, COVID-19 outbreak in India. So I will share my views what's going on in India. So the COVID-19 outbreak is the foremost human disaster, I think, in the 2020. Everybody believes on this. So more than 200 countries and territories have confirmed case of coronavirus declared by the pandemic by World Health Organization. The scientists are putting their best effort to stop the action of this pandemic virus for the last 5 to 6 months. The entire situation is very pathetic, and people all over the globe have become a panic-stricken and frustrated all these things right now. So in India, the tourism sector in India is very economical important, and though has been growing at the substantial rate, it has also undergone some turbulence post Mumbai attack. You ever heard in the Mumbai, in the Hotel Taj on 26th November 2008. However, it has started growing gradually, gaining back the momentum since 2009 with marginal growth rate, because most of the tourists are very scared to visit in India, mainly foreign tourists. The World Travel and Tourism Council calculated that tourism generated INR, Indian currency, 6.4 trillion or 6.6% of the nation's GDP in 2012. It supported 39.5 million jobs and 7.7 of its total employment. It's a huge employment generation scope in hospitality and tourism sectors all over the world, not in India. The sector is predicted to grow at an average annual rate 7.9% from 2013 to 2023. This may give the India the third rank amongst the countries all over the world. So from these statistics, we can say that there's a huge prospects for growing economy for each and every in the micro level and macro level of any countries, whether it is urban or non-urban areas. So in the context of this COVID-19 outbreak, the aviation industry and tourism industry go hand in hand. The sector contributes also 2.4% and 9.2% to India's GDPs, which I have already told. World Travel and Tourism Council in the report showed that India was placed the third amongst 185 countries, showcasing the highest contributors in terms of travel and tourism in the year of 2018. This industry created a large number of job openings, micro level, macro level, allied job market. The pandemic created this kinds of industries, a havoc based on the travel restrictions from one point to another point and expected global recession, according to International Air Travel Association. Estimates that the global air transport industry's revenues could fall 252 billion USD, whereas 44% below in 2019's number. So drastic fall. So Indian government has already spent 37.89 billion INR and 25 billion on aviation and tourism 2021 respectively. With the lockdown in force of aviation industry is suffering a huge loss in passengers flight. The aviation industry did show that the rise in the month of February due to mass booking of air tickets and announcement of evacuation in various parts of the country and the world at large. On the contrary, March 2020 showed a steep fall in the industry with the lockdown comments from 23rd March 2020 in India. So maximum travelers has already cancelled their tickets. Looking at the fragmented of the hospitality industry, the business travel segment has reported the cancellation of international business also.
Dr. Nilanjan Ray, could you hear me? I think he has a connection problem. Yes, he's right now, he's offline.
Yes, it is.
Now he's back.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Dr. Nilanjan, could you hear us?
Yes, yes. Am I audible?
Yes, we are all okay to hear you.
Dr. Ray, you don't have the microphone on.
I guess he's also again offline. This is the worst part of this online meetings.
This is why we are not in the same kind of, we have different problems. I don't know where is Dr. Ray, but I suppose
he's in India.
That's why. We are still, we have still privilege to be in the certain points of the globe.
Okay, I think his connection is still unstable. Maybe we can continue with Professor Yehuda, and when he will come back, he can complete his presentation.
Okay.
Professor Yehuda, could you hear me?
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Marhaba to everybody.
Merhaba. Welcome.
Yes, I'm happy to start with the presentation if it is okay.
Yes, it's okay. We will take Dr. Nilanjan when he's come back and he will complete.
Okay, so should I share my screen?
Yes, you can make your share screen.
Do you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start talking. The presentation today is about working from home, how people work from home, why people work from home, and especially what is the COVID going to do about it? What are the implications? So working from home can be called also telecommuting, teleworking, many names, but it was sort of new way of working when people talk about it in the 80s and 90s. And usually it is part of work flexibility. Sometimes it was used just to say, oh, we enable females to work from home, or we enable disabled to work from home, which meant that it was sometimes just for a section of the population. So before the COVID, studies highlighted what is good and what may be a challenge in the teleworking, working from home. A paper that I wrote some 9 years ago, published, was about the status of research in teleworking. And I indicated that there are many possible benefits for individuals that work from home, because at least they perceive that they are highly performing. They save time, they save cost, no need to travel to work, eating your own food, you're more autonomous, you have a higher level of autonomy. And of course, you have a good quality of environment like I have now in my home in England. Less work-related stress, more time to be with the family, and sometimes for some people, it is the only way to work. Of course, you benefit from not having the office politics and to have more privacy. And many times it was, yes, they trust me that I will work from home. However, there are also other issues like less opportunities for affiliation, meet people, social interaction, influencing other people. And then if someone has to be fired, out of sight is out of mind. So people that work from home were more vulnerable. People didn't see them, so they were not visible for promotions. And yes, there were issues with how to mix work and home. Sometimes it is even created a home-related stress, and the management of the home work interface was an issue, because you have more time with the family, but sometimes more time with the family is not that easy. Now for organizations, they benefited from higher productivity. They could draw on wider labor market, people that could only work from home, for example. They saved a lot on space, overhead, and people that are working from home are usually less absent than others. We see it now when we have meetings, more people you are attending. And yes, good image and sometimes legal requirement. But of course, the control over the teleworkers was an issue, control over health and safety, and how to motivate people when they are not with you. It was felt that the employees working from home are less committed. And of course, you don't have the teamwork benefits. For society, less commuting is good, less pollution, less congestions, less people die on the roads, and helping the local places, more people can work and there is less discrimination. However, of course, when everybody just work online, you don't have the human touch. You are isolated from other people, and the legal system was not fit. Some people also say that if you sit all day, there is a higher chance of obesity. So past finding had a mixed message and usually improved attitudes and performance. But in order for teleworking to succeed, you need 4 elements, and you cannot succeed without all the 4 conditions to succeed. The individual element, the organizational element, the home, and the job. What I used to say at the time when I worked on the teleworking in the 90s and until the early 2020, what I said is that you need all the 4 to succeed, and it is a challenge. And this, as a result, you can't expect too many people to work from home, and I suggested it will be 5 to 7%, because to implement teleworking properly, you need people with the right personality, attitudes to work. You need the job that will enable you to work from home, homes that fit, and organizational approach. The organizational approach was the major issue, because this was the approach of most managers to teleworking. How do you persuade your manager that you can work if he or she don't see you? This is why, as I predicted, it was only about 5 to 7% in most countries that had the ability to telework. But COVID came. And COVID enabled people to work only from home. So this attitude of managers couldn't persist. They had to realize, now we have to work from home. So our people have to work from home. It is the right people, the same personalities, the same homes, but organizational approach was changed because it had to change. It was given from above. For many individuals, there were challenges how to adjust to work on your own, to make sure that you have the capacity, the ability, the right attitudes, how to find solution at home. For example, okay, I'm fine, I have my own working place because I'm used to it, but some people don't have a place to work. Some people have children that are playing, crying, don't go to school. Sometimes you don't have even a room. Or you have 4 children that every one of them needs a computer and you have only 1 or 2. And of course, there are some jobs, many jobs cannot be worked from home, but the most important thing, organizational approach had transformed. It was forced, but it is working. So now, at least in the UK and many other countries I know about 50% of the workforce do practice working from home, because this was the only way to work under the lockdown, and it is becoming the preferred way to work if you want to avoid the risk of being infected. And surprise, surprise, it works. It works for most of the people. People work from home, and it is enabling them to continue performing for themselves, for the organization. And the thing is that the COVID-19 forced it as an experiment, but it is a quasi-experiment. Because, and here is one of the major issues, for some people, not everybody. If you have children in regular time, working from home would mean that the children are in school or in kindergarten and you can work. But this experiment is not full experiment, it's only quasi-experiment because children are at home. So people that would otherwise be fine working from home suddenly have to deal with the children, have to manage the case of home working and interference. We have many people that have dual careers, so the male and the female, husband and wife, or whatever the situation is, they need to work together. What if you have only one computer? Who will give you the other one? Your workplace? Will they fund it? Things that are not regular teleworking came to pass because of this unique case of the COVID. Also, global transportation practices, like we heard from the guy that was talking before me, which means that on many cases, it was not just tourism. Okay, tourism and hospitality suffered the most, but many other elements of the supply chain were missing for organizations and for the economy. The big question, I believe, for us as global citizens is what will happen after the COVID, when it is fine. And many people say, oh, I just want to go back as it was. No, it will not be as it was because we change, things have changed. And in terms of the teleworking, we have a new situation. Before, many people couldn't work because of managerial attitude. Now management attitude have changed. Many people, individuals that work from home and their managers that also work from home had the taste of working from home. And for many, it was great. And you can see that this is a sustainable system. It could work, which means that after the COVID, some people will go back or will try to go back to the old ways. Some people will adopt the new ways. So this is the big question for me and for all of us. If before it was about 5 to 7%, and now about 50% work from home, when inshallah we'll have no COVID-19, how many people will go back to work from home? How many people will stay? How many people will just use some element of teleworking? This is a question to be seen in the future. And in fact, with some colleagues of mine, we are now running a study in the UK to envisage what the expectation may be for the future, what will happen. In terms of career, I go back to my work, which is mostly about career, and I developed the career ecosystem perspective, where we can see that early work, look at the traditional career system that doesn't like that much teleworking, but the new careers are more dynamic, more open to flexibility, and the new system enable multiple players to work in different ways. It is less predictable and wider perspective is required. Definitely different working modes, and teleworking is one of them. The new system works mostly for professionals and managers, people that can work from the office. So I'm not talking that much about drivers. I'm not talking that much about teachers, but how can careers be sustainable when we have COVID-19 around us and with us? So the career ecosystem theory may be a theoretical solution to explain how we can look at the situation and try to work with it. This is the definition for a business ecosystem suggested by Ian City and Levien some time ago. And I developed it into career ecosystem where we have many actors and we have to work in a way that we are coupled with others. So we have to change and understand that we need to work in different ways. We have to get to agreement. The COVID-19 forced those agreements on us because it forced us to try at least this teleworking. But then there will be all sorts of elements like the way that we are connected with each other and interact with each other. We depend on each other, which means that after the COVID, we will need to find a way to enable people, on the one hand, to continue working from home and be effective, but in effective way. And the survival of the fittest means that those who can change and accommodate changes will fit, otherwise they may find themselves unfit to work. Cases in hand is the academic career, but I don't have too much time. I think I have only 2 minutes, yes? So
yes, Professor, you have the 2 minutes left.
Yes, so I will suggest that people can think about what the working from home, teaching from home, etc., will mean for our future careers, what kind of qualities will be needed to succeed in academic career. And yes, the universities, some schools have to have laboratories, others less. So different people need to work, will be able to work from home in different ways in the future. So yes, conclusion is career sustainability can be achieved in many ways, and the COVID-19 changed the game. Much of it will be different even after it is ended. So thank you very much. Beshakere dream, and that's it for me.
Thank you, Professor Yelda, and I'm so happy that you know a little bit Turkish. It's great to hear your Turkish in our National Day. Thank you for the presentation. For the participants, if you have questions, you can write on the chat box. After the whole presentation finish, we will have in the maximum 3 or 5 questions, depends on timing. Dr. Nilanjan, could you hear me?
Yes, yes, actually I apologize for that because due to my network connection, suddenly.
No problem, no problem. Now
okay.
You can complete your presentation.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So within 5 minutes, I will finish.
11.
Okay. So few observation I have regarding that COVID-19 impact on the tourism allied industries, that due to this pandemic, inbound and outbound travel tourism has completely closed for that reason in aviation in India. Another observation I have, that a huge amount of cancellation regarding that reservation in flight tickets, train tickets, hotel reservation may face a huge loss by that. Those hospitality and transportation industries are also, which those are allied industries for travel and tourism industry. COVID-19 pandemic impact likely to be felt at the each and every level of employees due to job loss. Another thing is that social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter, we can say that it is a digital marketing age extensively utilized for promotion in Indian tourism through blog, travel magazines, YouTube videos. So all these kinds of sorts of things has already promoted for exploring India, urban tourism and non-urban tourism. Few things, few suggestions I want to share with you, all of you, that one of the particularities of this globally linked by the generation has been lacked exposure to the world close to the home. So the restriction on long distance travel in general and foreign travel in particular. So we have to look on that matter with proper sanitization and proper infrastructure also. Part of the hospitality has used in the need for self-isolation of travelers by converting parts of the hotel to provide comfortable accommodation to such individuals like travelers I'm talking about, who can afford it. This opportunity might present itself a few more times since the second or third wave of the pandemic have been predicted. Another thing is that the transportation sector line to tourism is likely to see a shift in the demand from long distance travel to domestic and local travel. Similarly, innovative solution which can allow social distancing while traveling can expect a high demand. Right now has already started in India train. So Ministry of Railways has already chalked different precautionary measurement in the transportation system. So to summarize all these things, the industry which is currently facing its greatest challenges can certainly survive to live another day. Not only that, the learning from this crisis can be effectively leveraged to uncover hitherto neglected segments will ultimately lead to booming business within next 3 to 4 years, I think. So this is my observation and regarding hospitality and this COVID situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nilayjam. Actually, before the questions, once more, I would like to thank all of our invited speakers. They give 3 different insights related with COVID-19 and how it's affected our life. I'm still expecting a few questions because we have still time. From the audience participants, you can write your questions in the chat box. It's a good thing to be a moderator. I always use my advantage to ask the first questions. I would like to ask my question to Professor Helena. You give very quite different, how can I say, both sociological and psychological insight related with the COVID-19 and the other, how it's affected in upcoming times. I would like to ask that how would you see the common societal attitudes of the protesting the measures against the COVID-19 in Europe? How do you see how it will be shaped in the upcoming days?
It is a concern. I see it with some concern because I think people are not, they don't have awareness of what is really coming here. And we, in the world that we are interconnected with everyone, and if someone does something, it's going to impact the other. And now we cannot only speak about Europe, we are talking about the United States, China, the extreme Orient countries, Africa, everything. We can no longer pretend that we don't see things because we know about them. We have knowledge of what is going on in the world, even though sometimes the media don't say it, but we have the skills and the instruments to deconstruct the speeches and the news. And so we study, most of all are academics, and we know how to deconstruct things. And so we can no longer pretend that we are not seeing. I was paying attention of with the presentation of Dr. Baruch, and I also work in sustainability with vulnerable communities. And that is, I'm sorry, what I've seen, I work with sustainability because I'm a social worker. I teach social work. So I'm in the deep of the problems of society and the impact that this thing has done to all of us, and mostly for the most vulnerable. We cannot imagine what is going to be in 10 years. So when Dr. Barks talked about sustainability of careers, and sometimes I provoke my colleagues of organization psychology because I'm also married with one of them, and and I say, why can we work from home? Why it is so resistant to do that? It would give so many people quality of life. Of course, there are people that don't want to work. It is a choice, but it's because of leadership control. I seem to notice that in my university, the biggest fear was not to control the other. We can live like that. We cannot live like that. We must trust each other. We must work as a whole. Even we are talking about a company, an organization, a country. This is our world. This is our problem from all of us with different perspectives, but the different perspectives gives us the possibility of an holistic view of things. So we must stay together, because the question is, are we going to cooperate or to be competitive again? And are we going to destroy humanity? Because this is not the only problem. The problem of COVID just gave us a little notion of what is going on and open our eyes. The problems are very, very bad. So we cannot pretend that we are not seeing. This is my point of view as a social scientist.
Thank you, Dr. Helena. I would like to end this sessions because of the time pressure. We will have upcoming paper presentation sessions. Once more, I thanks for our distinguished speakers, and I would like to also thanks for the participants. We have now very multinational participants across all the world. Professor Helena, Professor Yehuda, and Professor Nilanjan, thanks for accepting to be with us here today. You honored us. Thank you for your presentation. We all benefited a lot. I hope this symposium's results will be good for the discussions related with the upcoming new world after the COVID-19. Thanks for everyone, and take care of you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.